Hi, Zizaran here. We are going to take a look at a D4 player who's been taking Path of Exile by storm and is having a good time with PoE. He's going to write a review here. The truth of the Path of Exile endgame. I'm going to give my hardest reactions.
I have reviewed Path of Exile before, but my previous reviews have been focused on the new player experience, a new character in a new league, and what you might actually feel like playing the game for the first time. But the end game of Path of Exile is so diverse, complex, and enjoyable that it deserves a review all on its own. Now, the part that makes this interesting is when we get into the Atlas skill tree. This is not like your normal skill tree that affects and modifies your character. Instead, this is the Atlas skill tree that modifies the map itself that you choose to go into. Meaning when I activate a map, if I go here and I show you, these are your maps, you collect these throughout the game. If I have a map, okay, and I take this map and I put it in...
I like how, there's going to be so many people that are new to Path of Exile seeing this for the first time, and he just casually glosses over the skill tree and the fact that there's an Atlas skill tree. It's just like, here's this huge overwhelming thing, and here's another huge overwhelming thing. It's just like so casual about it.
System, when I take this same map and put it in, because of the way I chose to put my Atlas tree skill points in, it will be a different style of map and have different activities to do in the map than somebody who went a different style. To give you one such example, if you look at my Atlas skill tree, you're going to notice I have a lot of blight related perks. Effectively, blight is the tower defense style in this game. I like that a lot. So when I do my maps, every map, more or less, is going to have a blight or tower defense bonus activity within it. I've also chosen to block all of the other activities, even though I can have other ones show up. So effectively, you can focus on what it is you like in the game, and these different activities are introduced to you throughout the campaign. Let's say you just like to kill mobs, maybe you like Delirium. If you like tower defense, maybe you like Blight. If you like to do crafting, for instance, maybe you will like Harvest. So there is different activities depending upon what you find yourself attracted to in the game by the time you get to the mapping system, which is actually at the end of the campaign. So you don't have to worry about knowing what you're going to like until it actually matters, which is a good way of introducing you to the system. It's important to note here that while the map system might sound complicated, you see all of these different skill trees, you hear, oh, mapping and modifiers and all this, it's actually a lot more simple than it sounds. I like the tower defense blight modes, but then I later found out I actually really like bossing. In order to kill bosses, however, I need these fragments, and these fragments can be very expensive to purchase. So what I ended up doing was farming the tower defense mode for currency that then I can use to purchase to farm more bosses and maybe get a big chase item.
So we're actually like a little bit opposite time zones right now, but once we're like on it at the same time, I actually replicated his character on standard so that because he wanted to do the bosses blind first, but then he said he wanted some backseating to learn them better after now that he's done them. So I've actually replicated his character, because first I was thinking, man, it'd be really cool if account sharing was legal. I could have just logged on his character, showed him how to do it. But second best thing is I replicated it on standard, so I have his full character. The only thing I can't get is, which is pretty important, I can't get the Warlock Ascendancy because I'm on standard.
Drop, which will pay off the bosses. This is how I've been trying to attempt to make my currency. Effectively, I really like bossing, but it takes currency to get there, but I still get to do another part of the game I really like in order to do the further part of the game I like. It's not forcing me through a circular farming of shit I hate to do in order then to do the one time I actually like to do something. The whole time I'm playing, I'm doing things I enjoy within the end game.
That is so important. That is literally the best change they made in PoE. Like, he's so lucky that he's playing now, because that's only been a thing for like, what, a year now? That we've had like so much, like I can't even remember when the Atlas tree came out, but it wasn't even like good in the start, and it's like what makes like leagues are irrelevant in the game now. It's been like the last year or last like 3 leagues that the Atlas tree has been in such a good state. Just under a year, yeah. Like I'd say like 3 leagues, the Atlas tree has been so good that the base game is irrelevant.
Do these so far of the mapping system and the customization in the game, you're not stuck doing bullshit. And mapping kind of rose into the conversation of currency acquisition, trading, and crafting. Now, if you are a normal character, meaning not solo self-found or basically an Iron Man where you have to acquire all of your items, then you have access to Trade League, meaning you can sell items, you can purchase items. However, keep in mind that it's basically required, though not technically, but kind of is, in order to be able to actually trade properly, you're going to need premium stash tabs, which allow you to be able to go and set prices of items, then putting them on the website, so you can sort of automate the process of trading. People can send you offers, you can invite them to your party, and then you will trade an item. Because of that, this technically makes the game not 100% free to play if we are talking about you really wanting to do trading. I would say this is basically mandatory. Most people who play the game will probably agree with this, and keep in mind these stash tabs is probably going to cost you anywhere between 20 to 40 bucks by the time you buy the different tabs, which will make the game significantly easier when it comes to trading. I have different trade prices for each one of these tabs just to make it easy. I can put the items in and automatically list them at a certain price, which just makes the whole process significantly easier. But because of this, I just want to mention that this is one thing that I often see people mention. The game is 100% free to play, but trading does pretty much require.
Is it just me, or does the sockets look white with that skin on it? They look like white sockets to me. Like the blue specifically look like white sockets to me. Do PoE players ever stop talking about D4? No, because the majority of us were so extremely excited for D4, and for the majority of us, it was a big disappointment. So a lot of people are very upset about it.
The part of the trading in the game is very good, because if what you want to do is slowly acquire power sequentially, linearly, basically going and farming maps, whatever the game mode you like I mentioned tower defense, or you can just farm mob killing if you're a delirium guy, etc. And then you can take these items, sell them on the market, and use that to slowly power up your build continually. This makes it where no matter what you're actually doing in the game, you're working towards a goal. However, if you're a solo self-founder, like Iron Man, by the way, type of character, then you're basically acquiring currency, which the currency itself you will then use to build items in order to craft items up. So kind of crafting / trading is another in-game part of the loop, which kind of comes back to mapping and bossing. You acquire either items to sell, which then you purchase other items, or you're going to learn the crafting system. And the crafting system would deserve a video all on its own. It is extremely in-depth. You can basically craft almost any item you want in the game, and each one of these items would do something different entirely. So I'm not going to go into the crafting in depth in this video. Just, it's suffice to say that crafting in and of itself is a whole extremely complex, deep in-game portion of the game. In fact, it's so complex and not complex like, well, oh, it's impossible to learn. But there's so much to learn, and there's so much actual skill in knowing how to craft that there is people such as Ghazi would be an example of a buddy of mine that just do for-profit crafting, meaning that their knowledge in the crafting system alone is what makes them profitable on the market, because they can purchase an item, they can then craft it into an even better item because they know how to do it, and not necessarily from an in-game skill point of view. Like, they don't have points into crafting. They literally know the process of crafting so well that they can make an item be worth significantly more with not what it would cost to make that item. And then there's a profit margin because of that. So because of that, there's a whole economy side of things around crafting. There's economy side of things around acquiring the raw resources for the people that want to do the crafting. There's an economy around bossing as well. So if you choose to kill bosses to try to get an item, for instance, I think somewhere in here.
That's like the biggest thing. That's like the largest difference between softcore and hardcore, where on softcore, like, bossing can be like super RNG, and a lot of softcore players despair a little bit. Like, if you aren't lucky, you are literally fucked. Whereas on hardcore, just killing a boss is like almost consistent profit just by being able to kill it.
I am selling a flask, this flask here, and this flask is an item that just dropped from one of the bosses I did that's worth a divine, or worth, you know, more than like 4 or 5 of these other items in here combined. So because of that, there is a whole subsection around economy as well as crafting that's part of the in-game loop that is definitely worth mentioning. And it's so significant to the point of you can buy and sell for profit if you're into that. You can craft for profit. You can literally go acquire the things for profit. Or if you're a solo self-found, then you can learn the crafting system yourself in order to make the items you're going to need. And the currency that you're acquiring slowly is kind of sequential, linear way of progressing your character. So eventually you have the currency you need to then craft the items. So even when you're not able to trade because you are self-limiting, we restricting yourself with solo self-found, all of the each individual items you get that can be used for crafting then also benefit you, so it doesn't even lock you out of the entire side of the game. So even acquiring currency is useful for a non-trading character. And because of this, trading and crafting adds significant amount of what I would say post-build gameplay. After your character is already where you want them to be, you can either...
Like, that's the craziest thing. Like, ARPGs traditionally, like, never had much of an endgame, right? Like, even D2 had, like, 2 bosses at the endgame, and everything else was just refarming the campaign. So it's only really Path of Exile that had a standalone endgame. Path of Exile was, like, the first game that really did that. It's kind of crazy.
Either min-max the character way further through crafting or trading, or the other cool part about this is if you make another character, all of the items that you acquired stay in your stash for that style of character. So if I have a soft core, basically I die, it doesn't matter. If I have a trade league character, meaning not self-restricted, then the next character I make has access to all of the currency and everything that my previous character had in the stash, meaning I can make a character first, which is where we get into the league starter stuff and start to kind of talk a bit how people min-max the game in the beginning. But effectively, if your first character is someone who farms currency very quick.
I love how into the game he's gotten so quickly. Like, he just started last league. D3 didn't have endgame till way after release, yeah.
Then your second character can be a character that takes a lot of money in order to build to make an even stronger character. So that comes into the part of the game where people, I'm just now learning, where people start with their...
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
First character being someone who goes through the maps very quickly to acquire currency. Then their second character is a more elite style build that is very expensive to build, but you want to do it from the ground up with like the correct items, etc. And that gives you further in-game by making a character to then make a character. And you can see how that would add even more layers of gameplay into it. I could go on and on about how crafting currency influences the game, but I think really this point doubles down, even for hardcore and solo self-found, which is what I'm doing today on live stream. If you want to come by, you can. I'm doing a hardcore solo self-found, basically got to do it yourself style. Even if I die today, okay, my character will have found some items myself on the hardcore style, so I can make another hardcore solo self-found, and I can have some of the things come along with me to help out my other character.
What level
like
is
a
he
stash
now?
in Diablo 4, if you're familiar. So because of that, everything that you do in the game is benefiting you. No matter if you're going to make a new character or if you're going to just double down on this character, or even just from a learning aspect, everything you do in the game benefits you. So you feel like you're never really wasting your time because you're always doing something that more or less down the road will matter. Then we also have what is becoming my new favorite part of the game, which is bossing. Now there are different variants of bosses. There are the normal bosses, and there's 8 or 9, I forget off the top of my head, different bosses in the game that you can learn. And then there is uber variants of those bosses. And the uber variants are extremely difficult, both in the tanky damage way where, okay, they're tanky and they do way more damage, so you're going to need to have a tankier build and do more DPS, but also in the skill-based way where you're going to need to have better reaction time. Some of them literally put their moves out faster than their normal variant. They also have different mechanics. For instance, in the boss fight that you're watching right here, in the normal variant, there's a shield in the middle you can go to stand in when he's doing his AoE that he's about to do right here with all these purple orbs. But in the Uber version, there is no shield, so you either need to tank them or have potions.
Did he manage to do any other Uber than Shaper? Like, did he try, like, Eater, Exarch, anything like that? I also really like his approach. Like, he's doing no handouts. Which I really like that approach. I feel like I get so like bored of watching streamers in other games where like their entire chat is just pooling them stuff. Now, obviously, like when you play Trade League, there might be the case that somebody will buy something overpriced from you and stuff, but it's kind of hard to help outside of playing SSF like he's doing now. He tried them all. Uber Sires was a hoot to watch. Oh, I really want to see that.
To know how to deal with them or just straight up dodge the abilities. And the cool thing about the Ubers is when I'm fighting them, I have yet to feel like this is just some cheesy bullshit mechanic and that's why I died. I've always died and got mad at myself because I realized I can beat this. There is a way out of this situation. I could have dodged that. And because of that, it makes me actually feel like your skill expression, to steal a line from League of Legends, actually does matter in this game. And you can actually really tell the good from the great players in this. And I think there are examples of this that are notable in the community. For instance, Ben's the one that I always hear about that can beat these Uber bosses way faster than anybody else with a completely undergeared character just out of pure raw mechanics. And I think that's super cool to have in the game that allows your mechanics to mean something, but also you can still get a build to down these if you need to be able to do it with just a build that's absolutely busted, for instance. So there is a really good boss fights, a really good boss fighting mechanics,
Everybody
really
knows
good
Ben.
circle gameplay loop of needing to farm the currency because you need fragments in order to even do the bosses, which gives value to doing other parts of the game because you can't just spam the boss every time. Each time you do the boss is valuable because if you aren't able to beat it within your 6 portals, or if you're hardcore and die, you not only lose your character, but if you're softcore and you die 6 times, you're not going to be able to kill the boss, which means all of the profit margin from defeating the boss and getting the items goes right out the window. So you would actually lose currency. So there is some risk
very
and
good explanation
reward
of the game,
with
though.
boss fighting as well. And I'm really, really starting to enjoy the boss fighting side of the game. It also allows you to build a boss fighting character. So for what you want to do is build one.
Like, it's just so nice to like hear like the fresh perspective and everything. Like, especially like I honestly I wish I'd seen this a year ago because I appreciated the game less than I think.
Your first character is to go and fight and clear maps in order to get currency. Then your second character could be a character that specializes in boss killing, for instance. So it gives you even more in-game loops of, I'm going to make a new character to focus on this, and this one's going to do this, and you can specialize. And the more I learn about Path of Exile, the more I realize I don't know yet. And I noticed that is both a best part of the game as well as the complaint. There's always people saying the game is overwhelming, but it's the overwhelmingness of the game that gives it so much in game. And it's the every time that you log in, you realize I can learn something new today that gives it the goodness that is Path of Exile. And if you don't have that and you don't have things to learn, then you don't have something to conquer. And when you don't have something to conquer in the game, then you don't have a game to play. So you actually need the confusion. You need the overwhelmingness in order for a game like this to work, because every time I've ever covered a game, the number one complaint I've always seen in the game is there is not enough content. And it doesn't matter if it's a mobile game or an MMORPG, it always boils down to we need more things to do. But in Path of Exile, the in-game, there's always something to do. And that's what makes Path of Exile great.
That's so true. And also like I really feel like most games, like people will say that about PoE, like, oh, I wish there was less stuff to do. I wish they would remove things from the game. I hate that. Because like, yeah, it is complicated. It does take a while to learn. But you know what? There's no game like it. And there are already so many games for casual players and people that don't want to be overwhelmed. So it's okay to have one game that's just chock full of shit. Like, add more stuff. Let us have more stuff to do. Add more. I love it. You don't like it? Go play something else. There's already so many games for you. Like, you don't have to know everything when you start out. You don't need to learn everything. This is a great review, though. It really, like, outlines everything. I absolutely love it. There's so much stuff to do in this game. D4 is a really good entry-level game. I know we shit on it a lot because a lot of people are disappointed by it. But, like, it's a good entry-level game. And it's a good advertisement for Path of Exile. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. That was a really good video. Definitely check out Darth if you're not familiar with him already. It's really cool seeing his journey. But yeah, either way, sub if you liked the video. More importantly, try to die less than I do. And less than Darth does.